and exercises. We're keeping it short today, still experimenting with how to do the go to live option the best. We have a specific topic. We are talking about session zero stuff today for role playing games, mostly Dungeons and Dragons, but this is very, very basic stuff. Applies to almost anything. Uh, Specifically, this very simple stuff is uh, party uh, party values. Um, Having a party, an adventuring group, a group of players. Now the players don't have to all have the same values, but their players need to be at least in the same ballpark so that you're not starting out with a situation of somebody being alienated. Now, step one to all this is the DM laying out expectations. Those expectations being what the DM will tolerate and what the world is like. For instance, in my Heston campaign, there is a long history of the region interacting with fiendish sources. There are uh, vampires in the area. There are magic using inhabitants that use devils as just part of business. Um, there's not devils walking around town, but they're used as messengers and maybe even bodyguards. Uh, Demons used to be a big deal, but they kind of been on the short end of the stick in a bit of a centuries long conflict. They are the bad guys. Uh, Literally, the main quest lines are anti demon. Um, and it's more of a chaos versus law thing than good versus evil. Point here is that it is not a super polite, super friendly, super goody goody two shoes society uh, by any means. It's much more of a independent society. So these are things that you should talk about in session zero because you don't want a redemption cleric or extremely moral, good overall paladin in a setting like that. Uh, they they don't fit in. They want to play the good guy, but they become the bad guy just because it's not that kind of world. Now, the next thing is from a player point of view. No matter the setting, you're still going to have degrees of good, evil, chaos, and law. Uh, how does the party feel when they defeat the bandits? Is there going to be summary judgment and everybody just gets slaughtered? If you've got one player, one character that is against that, that just is abhorred by seeing the slaughter of people that could be brought to justice or just let go, uh, you're going to have a problem. And think about you going out with a new group of friends and they become extremely violent. You're not going to stick with them. By the same token, uh, if you've just defeated a bunch of orcs and you feel that they've done terrible things, and you look at them as monsters, and you think they should be put to the sword, and the rest of the group isn't for it, I mean, you're not going to want to stick with that group either. So at low levels, it's important for party members to have a reason to stay together. Now later on, I mean, you're developing personalities and characters, and you drift a little bit, and then as you experience things and learn, and that's fine. That's character development. And as it goes on, these are people. Your adventuring team are people that have experienced exceptional circumstances, and they've grown very close because they know they can depend on each other. They're not judging each other necessarily based on these specific morals and such. Thank you for the comments. I'm not sure what you guys are talking about right now, but carry on. It's not all English, but I'm happy you're here. I hope you all get a little bit out of this. We're talking about session zero in role playing games and things you should talk about specifically. We're talking about party values. So, this goes for the idea of chaos and law, too. It's fun to run a party that is more interested in aligning with the Thieves Guild than the local sheriff. You can develop very strong ties to a guild and eventually possibly run a guild, smugglers or pirates or, who knows what. Now, doing that doesn't mean you're completely antisocial. You can still work very much within the confines of a society and not be murder hobos. And you can, some of us trying to learn, Tamina. All right, Ratface. Glad you're here. Not sure exactly what you're trying to tell me. If you got a question, punch it in there. I'll try to respond. Great screen name or great username, by the way. Um, so these are the things that you set up in session 0. The idea of the world and what's acceptable. Once again, going back to my current campaign setting of the London Vale and the Heston Authority that runs it. Are you a clan member? No, I am not a clan member. I grew up in the South, but no, never had any involvement with any particular clan. Um, Pretty much on the opposite of that. I don't always appear to be as liberal as I am, but I'm pretty liberal, um, which falls right into our setting. If you're running a group that is very liberal, very, let's call them chaotic, um, and you've got one guy that's super conservative, it makes it difficult to run that kind of game. Now that shouldn't matter in real life, but when you're facing the stress of a game, do I smoke pot? Believe it or not, I do not, and I never have. When I was young, that is something that was falls into that anti-social idea, the anti-law, and I was way too straight-laced. And since then, it's just kind of become a thing. I don't got no problem with people that do. I think it should be legal. I'm fine with it. I just choose not to do it myself. I don't drink either, so yeah, I'm a weird one in that regard. Now I've certainly had my moments as far as alcohol goes, but anyway. Um, and as we talked about setting expectations, um, you need to think about your players and how they, players need to think about their characters and how they interact with each other and make sure that they're building a party that's going to be fun to be a part of. You think about shows like the Walking Dead and how people interact, and tons and tons of different shows, and it's fun to have some conflict in there. There's nothing wrong with that, but there has to be a basis for them wanting to work together. Depending upon the setting, depending upon how the players and the DM want to do things, you might want to force them in. But you can uh, do that to an extent at your own peril. Personally, I prefer a party that likes to be together. They can give each other a hard time. They can be pranksters and troublemakers among themselves. But I do prefer to play in a group where the players seem like they're friends. Um, Biker bars. No, not a biker either. I know that's weird, isn't it? Um, and we're going to tie that right back into our subject. If you're running, let's say, some kind of cyberpunk campaign, you know, talk in session 0, player to player. Do you guys want to be a bunch of bikers? Do you, run a common theme like that? What do you do for work? Well, unfortunately, I don't do this full time for work. I am a parts guy at a GMC dealership. Um, been there for about what's it been now? 7-8 years. It's been a while. Before that, I did some buying and selling, antique store type stuff, collectibles, that kind of thing. But for the most part, my life has been in warehousing, um, or part sales. It's a weird industry to get into, but at least I'm putting my history degree to a good use. So I appreciate the interaction. I'm glad you stopped by, but we're keeping this short. Um, did you own a pawn shop? I did not own a pawn shop. I was something of a general manager at an antique mall in Galveston, Texas. If you ever want to run that kind of thing, do a lot of cash business. Uh, Not shady, but you can get semi shady. Uh, Galveston, Texas is the place to do it. I mean, in any kind of vacation hotspot, in the real world, in most places, people come into a store and at least half of them don't really want to be there spending money, especially dudes. Um, but in a vacation town, I mean, they're out to have fun, and it doesn't matter if it's letting the kids buy something that you normally wouldn't want them to. Their people are just wanting to get rid of any money that they've got in their pockets. I mean, you start the simplest kind of businesses in vacation towns, and if you're any good at managing money and people, you'll do well. Um, I have a friend in Lake Jackson, Texas. Never been there, at least not that I recall. But Texas is a big state. It's as big as most countries. Um, all right. As I said, we're going to wrap this down. I'm glad we're having some interaction, but it's time to walk the dog. So, uh, thank you for joining me. You are all very important in this world, and I'm glad that you are here. I'm glad that you exist, and I hope you all have an amazing day. Uh, and with this kind of interaction, maybe I'll go live more often. I'm not on a schedule, but maybe you'll get lucky and bump into me again. Y'all have a great night. See ya. Cheers.